I'm a martial arts expert. You can tell by the way I do this. Ow! Okay. Is that too loud? Is that your Wilson? Wilson! Yeah, it's my only friend. Truth. Alright, let's go. Okay. And welcome back to part 2 of this video series on this interesting Persian dagger that's not actually sharp, it's just meant for poking holes in people. So I forged this in the last video out of Damascus steel, just a random pattern Damascus, and I have gone through the normalizing cycles already and we are ready to rough grind it. So let's get into doing that. So rough grinding an integral knife to me means something different than it might mean to someone else. The rough grinding is just the grinding that takes place before the heat treatment. So depending on the type of knife or depending on the type of maker you are or how you forge things, whatever, you might do more work before the heat treat than after the heat treat or vice versa. So me personally, I like to do almost all of the work on the grinding after the heat treat. The reason is that even though it's hard steel, it's not really that much more difficult to grind or cut or whatever after it's hardened because of the abrasives that we have today. You know, if you were talking like 50 years ago or 100 years ago, you're using hand files, then you're going to finish that knife really close before you heat treat it because it's softer. So with me, I like to just basically remove the scale, maybe do a little bit of profiling, remove a little bit of thickness, just like by eye on the grinder, and then I'll go into the quench. That way, after the quench, I know exactly what I'm working with. And what I mean by that is there's always a chance for something to warp or to change dimensionally after you quench it. So if you finish out a knife very closely before the heat treat and then quench it, no matter how good of a quench it is, you can do everything right. You can do everything right and the knife can still warp. Depends on a lot of variables, but I do everything after the heat treat, so I know what I'm working with. I know that this knife is going to stay the way it stays. It's going to be the way it is after that's already heat treated. So that's why I do most of my grinding and finishing after the heat treat. With all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get to removing some scale and maybe rough out this profile to see what we're working with. this 8-inch wheel on here, and that's not quite the right diameter to get into that spot that I want. See how there's a gap right there? So I'm going to switch out to this 5-inch wheel. It's always good to have different size contact wheels that you can change in and out. This will better get that curve. That one. Closer match. I'm pretty much done on the grinder now. What I'm going to do is cut off some of that excess tang material. I always forge a little bit more than I need just so I know that I have enough. So basically I'm just going to cut off that last about 2 inches, inch and a half or so. That's basically it for the rough grind on this piece. And as you can see in the video, it's still very rough. It doesn't look pretty yet, which is totally fine. That's what we want for the pre-heat treat. Basically all I've done is remove a little bit of bulk material here. These aren't perfectly symmetrical. I have not measured anything. I've just taken out some material with that small contact wheel so it can heat treat nicely. I can come back in after the heat treat and clean that up without having to do a whole lot of work. This spike right here is going to be where the majority of the work is going to be in this entire knife in general. The main difficulties are basically working in a confined section right here. So what I mean by that is that since there is a thick point right here, I can't just take it on a grinder and grind. Right? So I have to grind in between 2 points, which is a little bit more difficult. And the other difficult part is going to be centering and grinding this square spike evenly, especially on this upwards curve here. So this is easy because I can just lay it on the grinder and just go, but on this inward or this upwards curve here, you can't just put it flat on the grinder because then you'll be contacting on 2 points and you won't be contacting in the middle since it's curved. So I'll actually have to use the edge of the belt and grind like that, or use a wheel, or using those two in combination. So it'll be a little bit tricky. Other than that, it's just like making a regular integral knife, which is still difficult. So there's not really any easy part about this. We're ready to go into the heat treat now, and that will be saved for the next video that you will have to stay tuned for. So if you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments below, like it, and consider subscribing if you're not subscribed already, and definitely share with your friends if you did enjoy it and you want to see more of this in the future. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.